Well, welcome back, everybody, to another exhilarating episode of There May Be Salt. I did the intro apropos of nothing this week. Why don't we all go around the room and say something questionably racial?
Let's not do that, actually.
Yeah. Let's pass.
Yeah.
Hungover
I don't
Sunday
wanna do
is
that.
not the day.
I said questionably. I didn't say let's all be racist. Come on, guys. Open your mind. Mind expansion.
God.
Still gonna pass.
Yeah.
And so what you've heard are the naysaying of the social solipsist, Red October, and Call of Actors. So the gang's all here.
Hey.
That's all Gambit.
What a
So,
time to be
Oliver,
alive.
this was your pick, and you already went into it a bit last time. But why don't you give us the synopsis selling point of Girls Und Panzer, which was this
All
week's
right.
pick?
Now that we're actually on the dedicated episode for this,
Right. Okay, well this was Girls on Panzer, which is an anime that exists in a fictional version of the world where there's a sport called tankery, and only girls participate in tankery because it helps them be more feminine. Somehow. They never were really clear on why or how.
And boys don't go to school.
It's
No. They were just at an all-girls school.
So, brief interruption here. I watched a different version than you guys. You guys all watched it on Crunchyroll, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
My translation, it's called Taekwondo.
Well,
Yeah.
That actually makes sense.
Which is actually more, it's closer to like the direct I have it written down here somewhere with the direct translation of what the word they actually use is. Hold on.
Sensha Do. The way of the tank is what that literally
Yeah.
translates to.
Yeah, that's the one.
According to the Wikipedia page.
which I am also on.
So, yeah.
Resident Wikipedia experts, Call of Actor and Spencer.
Yep. Our job.
Yeah, so I watched this a while ago and loved it. It was just so funny and weird, but also kind of heartwarming, and there were some really, I felt, good moments of, actual tension and stuff. So I picked it kind of as a, this was better.
You mean than our previous selections?
Yeah.
Potentially.
We'll get to that.
No, I mean
Yeah.
this is your personal feeling, so you can
I mean, okay, fine. I'm a bit biased because I watched it already, but
No, I mean if you liked it, you liked it. I'm just saying you don't have to speak for everyone else. You can speak for yourself and not hold back on that.
I want to speak for you. You liked it.
We'll get into it.
Anybody want to go into the characters, the many characters?
There were a lot of characters, but why don't we just kind of stick to the main crew?
Yeah,
And then we can
I was going to
consider,
suggest the same thing.
we can consider the other crews kind of one character because they were, just. I mean,
There's the main 5 girls and everyone else.
How dare you?
yeah.
Yep.
Every girl is immaculately detailed and has their own backstory.
I'm sure that they do because
Mal-
that's how you do good writing.
Mallard
But-
team more than anyone. Those 3 girls all definitely look really different. They're
Yeah.
definitely not 3 clones.
That's some military experimentation right there. Why do they have the authority to do whatever?
But yeah,
So yeah, there's the main girl, Nishizu something.
Nishizumi.
Nishizumi. Miho. Who is she's coming to this school and she doesn't actually want to do tanks anymore.
She
'Cause
comes to the
she
school
was doing tanks.
she comes to the school specifically because they didn't offer tankery.
Or so she thought.
Yes.
Well,
Or
yes.
so she thought.
But that comes in later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get flashbacks from Nam kind of explaining to us why
Yeah.
she didn't
Yeah.
want to do tankery anymore.
Her family is hardcore into tankery, like really hardcore into tankery, and she doesn't like that, and she didn't like that they were so hardcore into it that they were willing to ignore a teammate who was in trouble, and it caused a lot of tensions with her family because her family was super into their way of tankery.
This
Well,
is a
yeah.
this is an all girls sport, by the way. We should clarify that. Like
But we said
All ever
that.
did.
We did, but Mitchell or Social wasn't paying attention.
I'm sorry. I may have
What?
missed that. I may have missed that.
How dare you? How dare you not grasp every single word that was said?
I'm literally writing down a transcript of this as it's happening, word for word.
That's impressive.
That is some dedication.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. I was trying to consult my notes and might have missed something. Anyway,
Oh.
let's move right on.
Okay. But okay. So on the topic of her, she saved another team or not another team. She saved a part of the squad for the tankery competition that last year, but she was in the flag tank. But if I'm honest, like the flashbacks that they show, I'm like, wow, your plan was really dumb, like to begin with.
Yeah.
Like even if you had kept moving, you probably would have lost anyways.
To be honest,
Yeah.
as well, I feel like there are in the background that we never see. Her teammates wouldn't have drowned, so the tank falls off this really steep cliff into some water, and she goes and jumps out of the tank and jumps into the water to go save her teammates. But I feel like there would be, I don't know, referees of some sort that, or some team that could be dispatched to save students that are in immediate danger.
I want to talk about that because there are some safety concerns that I have, and I'm sure we'll come back to it later. But okay, they say early in the show, oh, there's always there's lots of safety stuff, so no one's ever gonna get hurt. But every single time someone gets their tank taken out, the main character has to ask the team, "Are any of you hurt?" The fact that she has to ask that is horrific. That the fact that you have to ask if a tank that was blown up, if somebody got hurt in it, that means there's not enough safety in those tanks.
Well, man, I mean, it's not like they're gonna, coat the inside in rubberized foam or something.
Why? Oh,
That would
why
be
not?
ridiculous.
This is supposed to be a sport. They're very clear. This is supposed to be a sport, not war. So
Yeah, and
they should
more
be,
people get hurt in football in America every year than any other recreational activity.
But when you're working with, I mean, obviously they say the insides are coated in some carbon something or other. So presumably there's something there, and they never explain any of the stuff, and I'm not really expecting them to. But the fact there are some safety concerns.
No, you're definitely right.
Yeah.
And they also, this is also, despite being an alternate reality, let's say it's about our era, but it's an alternate reality. Despite all that, they still don't have any sort of we never see any helicopters overhead or anything watching, or there's no medevac standing by. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're definitely right about the safety issues of
Yeah.
they're in fucking tanks, and at the very end of the thing, or hell, not even at the end, they're fighting tanks that have rounds that are massive that could pierce smaller light tanks.
Well, yeah, most of the tanks they're using are World War. Well,
They're World
They're-
War II.
they're all.
Mostly.
I want to say one of them is. I can't actually remember. Most of them are from the early war, though. They're 30s tanks. They
Yeah.
are not
Yeah.
prepared for any sort of combat with most of the people they're up against.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, the Sanders High School, they're using Sherman tanks, so those are late, well, mid to late. Actually, when was the Sherman developed?
I don't think it was that late, actually, but because the U.S. didn't get into the war until fairly late on, it's kind of...
Let's see. It was in service 1942 to 1957.
I was just about to say that.
Designed in 1940.
In other countries,
Cool.
it's still in use.
Yeah. Well, they were freaking solid tanks.
So I will say I admire the amount of work that all the people on that worked on this show put into making the tanks look. I mean, obviously the tanks are done in CG, so they can model them once and not have to worry about animating them too perfectly after that. But
Oh, yeah.
like, they put a lot of detail into the tank modeling. Most of the stuff that they talk about. I mean, obviously the combat is not. It's not super realistic, or everybody be dead. But
Sure.
But like they don't just say, oh well, this tank fires an impressive round when it was a pea shooter compared to anything else. They do stick to the what the tanks actually were historically fairly well, as better than I could be expected, or I could expect from them.
Yeah, they didn't have like the tiny tanks taking out massive tanks without doing some sort of like, oh, we can't pierce their armor because it's too thick, so we're gonna shoot the track, which is what they should do, and did. Did I make any sense at all?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm sorry. Ugh. So, okay, we were actually supposed to be talking about characters right now. So we talked about, yeah, that's what we were talking about. So we talked about Miho, who is the girl who, is the tank, from the Tankery family. Then there is the girl, who is really into having guys like her.
Mm-hmm.
Which is hilarious.
If there
because
are
there
any
no
men
men
in this
her
universe.
age. Huh?
I said if there are any men in this universe.
Well, there are men.
we
They're
have
old.
seen-
Wait. Hold
There's
on.
old men.
There are two. I think there are two boys in the episode where they are hunting for the like 6th and 7th tanks. When they go down in the ship, I think there are
Oh,
two
no,
boys
those
who
were
are
girls.
staff. Are they?
Those were
girls.
They sound like they're voiced by boys, and they looked kind of boyish. But all right.
They're still girls. There's a lot of boyish girls. We live in 2017. It's a weird world.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get into that.
And then there's the Ohana, whose name is Flower.
Yep.
Yep.
She's
She's a flower arranger.
yeah, and a damn good one.
Evidently,
Apparently.
yeah.
And then there's super nerdy tank girl. Who
Yep.
really likes tanks.
Yep.
And then
Her
there's
only
Spencer,
friends were
who drives the
tanks.
tanks.
Huh?
We both made weird jokes at the same time.
No,
Yeah,
I wasn't
the
making
weird
a
just
joke.
appeared.
She literally says her parents say her only friends were tanks.
Right.
I know, but it's still a joke. It's all a joke.
And then we have Mako, who is their driver, who is somehow a savant at driving a tank.
She's the best at everything, but she also has hypoglycemia.
motivation.
She's got hypoglycemia and like constantly, and for some reason is always tired. They try and play it off like that, but really she's just tired and quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, I already said Spencer, who drives the tank.
So we know who Spencer liked.
I didn't say that. I just said it's me.
I
I don't want to get up. I don't want to do anything. Well, what about your credits? You have to do something. Oh, okay. Hey, why are you good at driving this tank? I read the manual. You
Yeah.
read the manual? Yeah, I read the fucking manual, so I know how to drive it. It's easy.
And then
I'm going home.
And then
Okay,
I'll
I
just
do
kind
have to
of
take back. I do have to take back one thing about the accuracy of the tanks. One of them has a fucking steering wheel.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's Mallard Team, and it's just like, what are you guys doing?
No, it's not Mallard Team. It's, Shit, is it Mallard Team?
I thought it was.
It might be.
I don't even think it's like one scene. It's not even consistent, like shot to shot. Just I think for what they wanted to do one gimmick shot where she's like wrangling with the steering wheel, and there isn't a steering wheel in the rest of them.
Yeah. So I'll just quickly run through the teams. I don't remember all of their designations. I just remember by what they are. So there was Hippo Team in the it was basically an artillery unit on tracks.
Stug 3.
Yes. And they were the history buffs. There was the volleyball team. And they were what? The Ducks? Yeah,
Duck
they were the
team.
Ducks.
The Turtle Team, which was the student council.
Yep, Turtle.
The Duck Team is the Type 89B, which is a Japanese tank.
Gotcha. And then there was Rabbit Team.
In the M3 Lee.
Yes. And they were the first years. There were 6 of them. I don't know what they were all doing in the tank. I guess there were the 2 guns, so they needed to load both.
Yeah, you have like 2 loaders, 2 gunners, 1 operator, 1 driver, and 1 commander.
And the radio person. I think
Operator,
there's just
yeah.
one. I think
Yeah.
it's just one loader, probably. I don't know. They don't exactly show off the other teams very much.
No,
think
they
that's-
show off... Well, they show off, like, the student council
A little
team
bit.
all, like, a ton.
Yeah. Well,
And then there was kind of a team that showed up for the last episode that I'm going to designate as Team Internet.
Anteater.
Weeb Team.
Anteater Team,
Anteater.
the Type 3.
Yeah, Type 3 Chi-Nu tank that basically was just there so they could be the first tank to go down.
The
Yeah.
Martyrs.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's
And
see.
then there was the gigantic Leopold.
Leopold, which is
Leopold.
the automotive club.
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh, that
Which
was dope.
it's
They were awesome.
they were awesome.
and they're driving a prototype Tiger that was
Yeah.
scrapped.
Yeah.
Scrapped and turned into one of the tanks that the German team used. I can't remember which. I think it became the Tiger 1 or something like that.
Yeah,
So-
but what they were using, yeah, it was a prototype that never really did very well and had problems. But the automotive club was there to fix it all because
Yeah.
Deus Ex Automotive Club.
Of course.
And
Yep.
they're all driving these shitty tanks because all the good tanks got sold off.
Right.
Right.
Because you
And
know.
so
Yeah,
and so
big
they
twist.
have to they're going into this competition. And yeah.
I have some
So-
serious problems with them, like, dredging up these tanks out of fucking nowhere. Like, especially the one that is inside a cave in a mountain on a ship.
Yeah, I was
Guys,
about
what
to
the
say
fuck
let's
is-
talk about the first episode
I, like-
because they don't give you any indication at all of like, this is just a place on land.
Well,
And the whole first episode you go through and then they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we're just going to zoom out now and we're actually on a gigantic frickin' aircraft carrier."
okay, do you want to talk about the aircraft carrier? Because I've got some fucking words.
It's too big.
It is, you know how big it is? It
How
is
big is it?
7.6 kilometers long. It is 16 times the, or no, wait a minute. No. Yes. It is almost, yeah, I think it's 18 times longer than the longest ship ever built in our current world.
And that's not the biggest one because we see the one from the English school.
Yes.
And
There
that
are
one's
two-
even bigger.
There are 2 other ships that are both over 13 kilometers long. Yeah. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, they're too fucking so I did some research on this because it bothered me. Like, by comparison, so even the small ship the main character's school, Ori, I don't know.
All right.
Yeah. So to put it in pop culture perspective, it's 7.6 kilometers long. An Imperial Star Destroyer, like from Episode 4, New Hope. The main, the main Imperial Star Destroyers.
Yes. We know what a Star Destroyer is.
Well, it matters because there's like a bunch of different designations.
It's an interdictor class. Got it.
Is 1.6 kilometers long.
Okay.
So
wow.
It is 4 of those.
Oh, goody.
And like one of the main plot lines is, well, we can't keep this school ship running because it's too expensive. And I'm going,
shit, it's too expensive.
Well, yes, it's too expensive, but guys, you can't just shut this down. This is a ship that's probably got I'm just going to take a guess and say that ship has at least 100,000 people living and working on it. Probably a lot more.
Probably. I actually really wonder what the purpose of these ships were. Because, like, they kind of say, like, oh, it was just education going out of control. And it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. No, these ships have to have some other purpose.
I mean, I just let that slide because there's so many anime where if you try and understand the, like, economics or sense behind, well, why did you guys get to this point, it just kind of falls apart. And I mean, this, at the end of the day, this is it's not a show that takes itself super seriously, so I just kind of wrote it off as, it was never something I was gonna expect them to explain.
Yeah, fair enough. So, Calibactor, what was your...
Huh?
Do you have any opinions on all of this?
I mean, I guess I just didn't really care about, like, the realistic aspect of this world, because we're already in a world where tankery is apparently a very feminine thing to do, so, I just kind of, whatever. They're focused more on making the show serious enough, like, to have tension with the characters, not necessarily, like, make you believe that the world is reasonable. Like, it's not unreasonable, but, like, of course, like, sizes of things, like, I don't really care. I had a good time watching the plot.
I was more entertained by the scale of stuff. Like, I was kind of just baffled by it. But I did draw issue with, why the fuck are you, like, you're spelunking for tanks in a mountain on a ship? Why is that? Like, I totally understand the, like, parks and all that stuff. Why is there a mountain on a ship?
Because why not?
It's weight distribution.
Exactly.
Sure. All right.
Yeah. They had to balance it.
How did they get it there? Did they airdrop the mountain onto the ship? Was it before or after it came out of the dry dock?
Actually, I bet that they made the ship just out of the land. No, hear me out. Like, they just dug underneath the land. Like, there was already all this stuff on top of it. And they just built a ship underneath it. And then flooded the chamber and off to sea.
It's a hell of a way to do things.
I genuinely think that the world is the most interesting part of the entire show, which includes the enormous ships, the mountains on the ships, etc. I don't really, have any reason to question it. It's just, for me, suspension of disbelief. But I honestly felt like the questions surrounding the ships and the world they were living in and the design, like, that was by far to me the most interesting part of the world here is, we live in a world where tankery exists, and there's these super huge ships, and the ships have mountains on them, but they also come from real towns that the ships are named after. That's kind of neat.
So, speaking of the real towns thing, apparently the show got so big that one of the main towns that is mentioned, I think it's the first one they stop off at, in real life, that town, which is real, started incorporating tank demonstrations into their yearly town festival.
That's freaking awesome.
That's pretty sick.
So, the first town they stop off of, I could be misremembering, but that's the one where they have the tank cafe, right?
To be
don't
perfectly
recall,
honest, they cut around so much that I sometimes had a hard time telling whether they were especially when they were indoors, whether they were indoors on the ship or on land or something else. I kind of lost the plot on that.
I think because that takes place after the battle that they lose with the demo battle with the English team.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
We proceed to follow them around and just stare at them for every
Yeah.
following episode.
So I think that is the same town.
It's on land, and that was such an awesome cafe. I just want the world to know that I want to open a cafe just like that.
Let's set up.
I don't doubt it
adjacent
already
cafes.
exists.
I'm sure
Somewhere-
it exists somewhere, but like we want to make one.
Yeah.
We want in on this money-making venture.
Exactly.
I'll open a cat cafe, and next door you have a tank cafe.
I like it.
We'll all work
Yeah.
out.
So Spencer, in your cat cafe, the cats are going to be making the coffee, right?
Yeah.
They're well trained.
Yeah.
We're gonna
We're
have
not-
tanks
we're not-
making the coffee in ours.
I like this idea.
And then when you want to order food, you just press a tank, and it makes it sound like a gun firing.
Yeah,
And then, gosh, what brings it out?
it's a tank recovery vehicle.
Yeah, and yeah, the tank recovery vehicles bring out your orders.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
perfect. We nailed it,
Liking these
everybody.
ideas.
Hurry up,
This has
tank
been There
recovery.
May Be Salt.
Hurry up, tank recovery team. No. Take your time.
Yeah. So, yeah. I kind of want to ask all of you, like, so what were your favorite battles? And if you guys don't need it, or, you need some time to think about it, I can go first.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I need some time.
Okay. My favorite battle was the fight with Sanders.
The American team.
Yeah, the American team, the first one in the tournament. Simply because of the tension in that they actually show you of, at the very end of this fight, they are chasing after the flag tank, and they're like, all right, it's do or die at this point. Like, we gotta do this. And they managed to win because Ohana is freaking badass and makes the shot. I don't know. There was so much tension leading up to that, and it was, if we don't make this, we're gonna lose.
I really enjoyed. I don't remember if it was the previous episode or early in that same episode. The whole like infiltration sequence video that Yukari made.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was
great.
the previous episode.
I don't recognize you.
Yeah. Oh shit. Bye.
Sergeant Oddball.
And then on her phone, somehow managed to make credits.
Hey man,
I
the
edited it on the
Japanese
way
phones are magic and can do anything. The rest of the world doesn't understand what Japanese phones are capable of.
Clearly not.
To be fair, I do have a copy. I have a version of Premiere on my phone. I've never used it, but I have it.
All right, so that was my favorite battle for that kind of reason. I mean, there was a lot more leading up to that, obviously. The whole the Sanders, one of the second in commands, was cheating, essentially. Well, no, she wasn't cheating. There was no rules stating they couldn't do it. They couldn't monitor communications.
There are very few rules to speak of. Like, there's no sense of fairness. Like, obviously, there's some unspoken decorum rules of you don't shoot a tank that's down and like shit like that. But You can just field as many fucking tanks as you want in any configuration, and
Well,
Yeah.
there's rules on in which rounds how many tanks you can deploy maximum and things like that are brought up.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
they say that, but it's like it doesn't. I don't know. It's odd. It's odd. I think the American one was interesting because the main commander says, all right, well, I'm only gonna take our 5 for.
Well, yeah,
the
but she
remainder
does
the
that kind
battle.
of in response to, oh, my teammate was cheating or was doing this. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't against the rules, and Orari figured out a way of beating it, but it was
All
still
battles
like
must
that
be
wasn't
fought.
very cool.
Yeah. What did I tell you? All battles have to be fought fairly, honorably. I don't even remember what the line was, but something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That's the American way.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure is.
Anyways, I mean, that was actually a positive description, or, a positive look on America. Sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have other animes that I've seen where they just show Americans as actually Gate JSDF shows Donald Trump as president. It was well before Donald Trump won the election.
I don't know who that is.
All right. We're not getting political.
I don't know.
But
what
let me
you're
just
talking about.
say, if there's suddenly a portal into another world or universe in Japan, and a bunch of people get killed, you might want to watch that anime, because it might tell you what's going to happen next.
Unless Christina wanted to go next, I could go.
No, go for it.
I think the only battle I actually think I enjoyed. It's not to say I didn't enjoy any of them, but I honestly didn't feel too much clutch. I mean, I felt like in the actual tournament, everything was a Pyrrhic victory, and it all came down to like we're just gonna systematically pick off tanks and have a final shootout where both teams lose, but one team loses first. And I felt like that was just kind of done a little much in the series. And in one fight, I can find that really interesting. In 3 in a row, I find it kind of tiring. The fight I enjoyed the most because it kind of countered my expectations of it was actually the St. Gloriana Girls Academy fight, the very first exhibition match.
Yeah.
And the reason I felt like that was a really good one was because it totally betrayed my expectations of what to expect. At this point, the girls still don't really listen to Miho very much. They all decorate their tanks with all these weird... The one that I thought was really funny and I actually audibly laughed at was the low profile tank.
Yeah.
They put these huge fucking banners on it and they try and sneak through an alley and they're like, it's a low profile tank. They won't see us. And they just get shot.
To be
Because
fair,
they have these huge cosmetic things.
They use those same flags to blend in with the scenery, I think earlier in that fight or maybe in a different fight. Yeah, I think it was in that same fight.
But in the end, the main characters actually lose that fight. And I thought that was they lost it, but the other team still acknowledged, you guys had some good stuff going for you. And it was this really interesting fight to me because it betrayed the expectations of these quirky girls will pull through no matter what for the first fight. And it kind of gave them some motivation to all get serious and, react better in the future. So showing the ways that the teams were starting to come together and be cohesive and learn what tankery was all about. And it wasn't necessarily the everyone do your own style and they got punished for that. I actually thought that was a really, really interesting way of doing the battle. And I felt a lot of tension in that fight just because of just because you kept feeling like, man, the main characters should really be losing, and then they continuously just keep losing and getting in a worse and worse spot. And you kind of feel like, so are they going to turn this around? Of course they're gonna, and then they don't. I really enjoyed that. Again, it's not to say I didn't enjoy the later fights. It's just they all felt a little bit to the same formula to me, and I didn't.
Yeah. I can definitely see what you're where you're coming from on that. I think that the beating Sanders though is it's the first fight and they win.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have done it better. Well, to be fair, we don't actually see the one fight where they just raffle stomped.
Yeah. I did like the way they handled that too.
Yeah. Like, I kind of would have liked to have seen them just wreck shit.
Yeah, I
But-
wanted to. I immediately noted when I saw they had that like 5-second little clip of the like corkscrew hair girl like falling out of her tank. I said, why didn't we get to see those? Why didn't we get to see this fight? Because in a similar vein to what Spencer said, I felt like it was a lot of the battles were kind of samey in terms of narrative structure.
It's a problem I had actually with the show as a whole is that there were definitely things I enjoyed about it. Not to, cut to the chase too quickly or anything, but there was certainly a lot of stuff that I actively enjoyed watching this show. But I also felt like most of the writing was really one-dimensional. Most of the girls were one thing, and their entire existence and or conflict was one thing. The volleyball girls wanted a volleyball team back, and all they talk about is volleyball. Flower arranging girl used to arrange flowers, but now she doesn't, and her mom doesn't understand. And her mom doesn't understand is like half the main girl's conflicts.
Yeah.
Of the fights all kind of get fairly systematic. There's a lot of moments in the show that it's just so predictable, and again, one-dimensional is what I'll keep going back to. We need to raise the stakes. How do we do it? The school's going to close down if we don't win.
Yeah.
It's such a like it raises the stakes, I guess, but not in any sort of artful way. And there's just a whole lot of moments that I'd find myself enjoying one specific thing, and then I'd find myself really annoyed about 10 seconds later with, wow, that was incredibly just, to a T form. Like the Russian fight where the Russians hole them in and then go to bed. Like,
Oh, yeah.
and they
Yeah.
do their little stomp dance. Like,
Yeah, I'm pretty much 100% with you on what you just said. I was really like especially because of how much of the show was not tank fights. I wanted some character development. Please, like, can I have a 2-dimensional character or 3-dimensional character? I was very bothered by I didn't care at all about any of the characters or any of their conflicts. Like the main character's conflict with her family was like massively cliched, and I could have lived with that if I cared more about her, but I didn't. She didn't have any, like, she's a what's the term, Mary Sue, or what's yeah.
I cared about Mako's mediocre existence, but mostly because it's the same as mine.
Yeah, I mean, there were humorous moments, but aside from the occasional chuckle, I almost never wanted to see anything about like the general like slice of life stuff. I was really, the tank battles were kind of samey, but I was never not enjoying them as they were going on. And every time they would cut back to like whatever non-conflict was going on in their daily life, I just kind of dozed off.
Christina, Social, we still haven't heard what were your guys' favorite fights.
Go ahead, Social.
I don't have a really strong feeling on any of them. My choices, I mean, when I was thinking about it, I was picking almost purely based on what was the most tactically interesting, because that was what I was getting the most enjoyment out of. I'm going to have to say the final battle with we're just going to call them the German team.
Yep.
Because there was I think that fight had the most dynamics. The Ori's team showed they had come together the most at that point and showed the most ingenuity, and obviously it's the last fight of the series, so it had the most going for it, I think. I was genuinely enjoying some of the clever tactics they had, especially the turtle team.
Yeah.
With like sniping from the bushes and then like driving up right in the midst of the enemies. I was having a good time.
The Mauer was actually pretty clutch. I'll give it that. When they used the 3 different tanks to take out the large Mauer, that was clutch as fuck.
Yeah, I really didn't like the end of the fight. I thought it was, but
Yeah.
you know, but I was enjoying that fight the most. Call it actor.
I think I really liked Saint Gloriana, the exhibition with the British team fight, probably the most, just because it was a big slap in the face to all these people who are just like, yeah, we're driving tanks, we don't need to worry about anything else, we're badass and we can do anything, and then they just get wrecked, and it was fun. And then second would probably be Sanders, just because it's like, oh, that's when they start to get their shit together. And then the remaining 2 that we see, it just kind of became like, it was interesting, it was fun to watch them, but it did get to be a little predictable of like, okay, well, what goofy tactic are they going to use to, win? Because we know they're going to win.
So, actually, now that I've, been thinking about it a little bit, I kind of think that the show might have benefited from being longer.
I was gonna say the opposite. I wish this was a movie.
There is actually a movie, but no, hear me out on this. Because a lot of the problems that we're having is that all the fights are pretty formulaic, and it's like, we have the one fight where their expectations are crushed. They are, slapped saying, nope, you are this upstart school that is not going to do very well, but you've got some things going for you. Good luck. And then we have the fight with Sanders, where, oh, hey, we can, if we get our shit together, we can do this. And then we have the fight we don't see, where they raffle stomp. I really wish that they had, at that point, that there had been maybe like 2 or 3 more episodes to this series, where instead of having a single elimination bracket, it was a double elimination, and they lose to the Soviets, or to the Russians.
I agree that I think
disagree.
that the tournament bracket was a little bit wonky and didn't make a lot of sense. Mostly just served the plot, but I definitely don't want it to be longer, purely because I don't think they made good use of their 12 episodes. That sounds rougher than I mean it. Basically, I feel like they could have used the time they had, the episodes that they had, to better effect. I don't think two or three of those fights were dragged out for 2 full episodes when they didn't necessarily need to be. The time that was spent on the general slice of life stuff could have been cut down and
Or just made better.
Well, both. I think they could have given a lot more characterization in a lot less time. And if they had done all that, then maybe I could definitely see making it longer and giving it more dynamics. But I didn't even feel like they did good work with made efficient use of the time they had, and it never felt like it was being dragged out rather than being crunched in for lack of time. And that's what made me feel like it might have been better off as a movie, as, basically synthesizing it down to the core aspects, especially because I felt like the first 2 episodes were it was world building in a way that didn't need to happen for me. If you had just dropped me in and said, here's the Taekwondo team, they're the underdogs, they're fighting these other Taekwondo teams, I'd be like, all right, let's go. This is happening. I'm just gonna, we're in. They could have made better use of the time. That's kind of my end point.
I could stand for it to be longer. It just depends on what they do with the time. Part of me feels like some of the constraints they had were because they knew they only had 10 episodes going in. The manga is significantly longer, has several spin-offs, and so first of all, the manga got beat with the ugly stick. It does not look good. I do not recommend reading it because, again, like, put this show in the microwave too long and you've got the art style. It's not
jeez.
good, guys.
Is it consistent, or is it like all over the place bad?
It's consistently terrible.
I mean, yeah. It can be
yeah.
inconsistently terrible, which is worse. So
Yeah,
at least there's that.
It's just in my opinion, it's just not good art. But they do spend a lot more time on some things and do a little better, in my opinion, in the first couple of volumes with the writing. It's not like a huge leap above or anything, but I definitely think that they didn't. So they knew they only had 10 episodes on the show, and then there's those 2 recap episodes. But
Wait a minute.
No, it's 12 episodes.
Okay, I was going to
12
say
episodes, but 2 of them are the 0.5 episodes.
No, it's 12 episodes plus 2 recaps.
Yeah.
Whatever. I can't count.
There's 14 total.
Okay. Either way, it's like they walked in with what they had. I think that, they knew they were limited by that, and I don't think they had the same constraints with the manga, and that's kind of clear as you're reading it. But I don't also recommend the manga because I didn't think it was great.
Speaking of the art style in the manga, I had some mixed feelings on the art in the anime. I thought they did a good job with I already complimented the detail they had in all the tanks, and obviously because it's rendered in CG, they can, well, in theory, it ought to be cheaper to produce those sequences. But in terms of the animation, I felt like it was kind of a mixed bag. Some of the large-scale background paintings or settings paintings were really solid, but the animation and the art style of the show itself is either generic or kind of all over the place for me. I don't know if anybody else has feelings on it.
I felt like the girls were overly there was a very clear difference between the girls of the tankery team and then all the adults in the world.
Yeah.
They
I
looked
felt like
like
the
they were
adults were
drawn
more
by
detailed.
different people to some extent.
Yeah. And I think obviously,
That was a bad way of putting it.
I'll let go any choice in style. It's a matter of personal preference. It's totally subjective. But I felt like even with the main tank team, a lot of them were fairly generic, and I had a hard time keeping track just of who is who, and well, it didn't help that they were fairly one-dimensional to begin with. But even just some of the animation quality in terms of being choppy and stuff, and it really varies from scene to scene. It's very odd. I don't know if that's a budgeting thing or who knows.
No.
Yeah. So
let me bring up one specific scene that I really didn't like, because there were, so again, I don't have a, not to cut to the chase or anything, but this was not a show I didn't like. There were definitely elements of it that actually I really, really enjoyed. But then there was some stuff where I was just like, you're kidding, right? And so, big spoiler on the ending here. I was really, really hoping that the show would at least not end quite as one-dimensionally as it could sometimes be, because to be fair, there were moments where they used those single dimensions to, have a sum greater than its parts. But one of the very last scenes is younger sister, older sister shaking hands in front of a sunset. The battle's ended just like the tournament has, which is represented by the sunset, and so too has their feud been ended, shown by the handshake. The two are superimposed over each other to show that this saga of their animosity towards each other, their feelings of mutual distrust, and sort of, the older sister's aggression and the younger sister's feelings of not belonging. The sunset is this big symbolic thing of all of that's over. We're at the end of this period, and a new day begins as she talks to the rest of her team about the next coming year. It's so absolutely cliche. Like, the fact that I could just, off the top of the cuff, pull all of that just like symbolism garbage high school English class. It's so overt and it's so predictable, and it really annoyed me.
And then hard ass mom just like smiles and claps.
Oh yeah, that bothered me.
Smiles and
I wanted
claps
her
in the
to be
sunset.
pissed. I wanted her to be so mad.
Yeah.
I wanted her to be anything. I wanted her to maybe say like, yo, sorry, I was a cock. Like anything, but just clapping at the sunset.
Yeah.
Clapping at this idyllic sunset that's meant to represent the end of this chapter. She's literally just like applauding the end of the show.
Like part of the plot.
Oh, good, it's
part of the
over.
Part of the main conflict is, hey, I really hate that you aren't following in my footsteps and doing the whatever her last name is style, and I'm really bothered by that. And then she's just clapping. She's like, oh, she found her own style.
But she wasn't even there for the conversation. She's just clapping on a hill.
Yeah.
At the sunset.
She was watching the battle.
The Jumbotron.
Yeah, again, like
I
from
do love the rolling TVs on trains. It's
Yes.
pretty great.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was pretty good.
No, from the writing perspective, it's just like you have this utterly generic scene followed by, again, the mother is essentially at that point, a stand-in for the viewer, just clapping at the resolution. It's really bizarre, and it's just not... It was very far from necessary, and there were a lot better things they could have done.
I think,
And
what they
having
needed
that
to
as
do with the
ending, that
mom was they needed to have a direct conflict that we see between her and Miho.
She literally says, I'm going to this match to expel her from the family. And then she
and then
claps
just
at the
does
sunset.
nothing.
Doesn't even talk to her. Just, yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
fucking sub-commander, Prick McPrick, as I call her.
Erica.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's like, at the end of it, she's like, we're gonna win next year. I'm like, you have this entire time, this entire series, been insulting these girls, have been incredibly, unsportsmanly. And now you're suddenly like, oh, all cheery, hey, next year we're gonna win, we're gonna beat you.
I was also confused, was like her being commander versus sub-commander, and like they could have played up the conflict between her and the big sister more. Just a little something. Because clearly there's like some struggle for power going on there.
A little bit, yeah, but I think at the end of the day, obviously the older sister was better.
Yeah. Well, older sister had to correct her several times.
Yeah.
Hey, don't do that, idiot.
Christina, I'm curious here, and not to keep going with this joke, but it's a good joke. As the resident female of There May Be Salt, is there something you can tell us about how tanks and tank fighting like really lets loose female agitation? Is there something there that we're just missing as males?
What do men not get out of this?
Yeah, like, do you usually go to your tank fights and come back and feel like you've really like let go of some bad emotions, or does it tend to make you more tense?
I feel more feminine after my tank fights. I'm not really sure how, but somehow it just makes me a better mom and
A better housewife.
And women
A
are all
better
about
career
apologizing
woman.
and being submissive. So of course that's why they turn a 180 and apologize and become friends at the end of every fucking fight, no matter what happens.
right.
Got it. Okay, it's one puzzle. We figured
that was
it out.
so like the only one where that totally made sense to me was not even, it was like the one against Sanders. because the commander of the Sanders team was already happy and friendly.
Yeah.
Of just
Yeah.
like, we're all right, we're doing this for fun and we're gonna have fun. And I don't have any hard feelings at all.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, she, forget the character's name. She's like, "What's your name?"
Kay.
Oh, it's
Her name's Kay.
Yeah, and then she's Sergeant Oddball, and she just laughs. Everybody else chases.
Oh, yeah.
Chases her. She's just like up there laughing on the stage.
And then was totally chill with her. Like, she was like, "Hey, Sergeant Oddball,
Yeah.
how's it going?"
She's aloof like all Americans.
Yep.
Have you guys seen Kelly's Heroes?
Yes.
No.
I have not.
Good movie. Recommend it. Really fun.
It adds a little bit of extra references and stuff that are fun.
Yeah.
That's Sergeant Oddball is a character in Kelly's
The
Heroes.
first thing I found when I googled it was a shirt. Well, the other thing that we always have to talk about on shows like this, obviously excluding Mako because she's the clear winner. Who's the best girl here?
Oh,
course.
best
We're gonna do-
girl?
Are we gonna
Best
do best
girl,
girl or
besides-
best team?
We can do either, but I mean, clearly Spencer is best girl.
We can
so-
do both,
We
can.
could.
We can. We definitely can.
Okay, let's do both.
All right.
Callabacter, why don't you start?
Oh, what?
Is best
Best girl,
best girl
and
from
best team.
Is it best girl from any of the teams or just from the main team?
Best girl from any of the teams besides Mako because she's the clear winner.
And any of the teams, any of the characters at all.
Okay, so best team, I would have to say Turtle team, so student council team. I enjoyed them quite a bit. I guess especially just because of the final fight and what they were doing as a strategy. That was just fun to watch. Runner-up is your main team. And then best girl, I'd have to say, is Ohana, just because I thought it was hilarious. And she's like, I need to arrange my flowers with more vigor. And I'm just like, what the fuck, actually? So I got too much of a kick out of that.
That she had a vase made.
Yeah.
God.
Tank vase.
Yeah. So
I
like,
thought that was a pretty dope arrangement.
It
looked
was.
Yeah.
It was like a great tank explosion arrangement. It looked awesome.
It was, but it was just funny.
yeah. So if I can't choose Mako, I'll go for Ohana.
All right.
Who wants to go next?
I think Spencer should go next.
Well, best girl, I mean, again, obviously it's me.
Sure.
I felt really uncomfortable in the first episode because Miho's life was just way too similar to mine in the like, hey, I'm just kind of sitting here really uncomfortably. But then I met Mako and I was completely just like, wow, this is my life. I don't want to do anything, but I have to do everything. I always feel fucking tired and like I have low blood pressure. I don't like getting up early, even when I have 6 alarms. I don't like getting up late. I pieced out of a lot of stuff in college and high school because, boy, it's a bother. Oh, I guess I need these credits. Never mind. I'll totally go back on everything I just said. So yeah, Mako was my life. It was pretty good. Oh boy, like part of me wants to say Anglerfish team was the best because, it was all the main characters and I thought they had the best dynamics, probably because there was a lot of characterization there. But I actually think I'm gonna have to go with the student council team because there was something about that dynamic too that I really liked, and as like a completed unit, I thought that their single dimensions formed into like a really cohesive character. Like each of the girls in the student council weren't so much a character, but the student council girls were a character.
See, that's
makes any
that's
sense.
what I was saying earlier about the teams. Like we can like talking about each of the girls in the anglerfish tank because they were characters, but then none of the other characters are actually really characters. The team is a character.
Yeah. No, and I thought that as a cohesive unit, the student council girls were probably the most, the most convincing as a team unit and as these three parts make up a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's just my 2 cents on it.
All right. Shall I go next?
Sure, why not?
Better.
All right. So best girl, or let's go best team first. I'm having a hard time. I think it's going to be a split between Hippo team and Leopon team. I love the Hippo team's just fun because the 4 girls are all into specific they're all specific nationalities. The commander's name she goes by Irwin, which is a funny thing. And then she's like, go what was it, go how dare you say that, I can't even remember the line, but it's something like pay your respects to the Swedes or some shit like that. I don't remember what it was. Anyway, so they're just kind of fun because of their dynamics between the 4 of them, even with them being super ancillary characters. And I think they have the most fun with their tank. Leopon team is fun just because they're super into taking care of this piece of shit tank and taking care of it on the fly and throwing it in the way to hold off the attack and stuff like that. And I laughed so hard when they're like, all right, time to rev up the tank and destroy this bridge. fuck this bridge. You don't get to follow us. That was just kind of fun. Best girl, I'm going to go with, I don't really care much for any of the girls on the Anglerfish team. I'll go with Momo from Turtle Team, the black-haired girl on the.
Really?
She had when they would do cutaways to Turtle Team in their tank. I
It's
felt
just her shouting.
she has the most dynamics of the main student council president Anzu is kind of just fun cocky girl, I'm just gonna eat and command you guys to do stuff and the 2 of you are gonna freak out. But I don't know, I thought Momo was fun.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess it's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
I'm gonna have to go with best girl is going to be Kay from the Sanders school. Their commander. I don't know. I just liked her a lot. She was happy-go-lucky, and really, but also really no, what? Let's do this fairly, because that that's what tankery is being. It's not war. It's a sport. And best team. That's a hard one. I'm gonna break form, or not form. I don't know. Despite the fact that none of them had any characterization beyond volleyball, I'm gonna go with the volleyball team. Simply because I liked the a lot of the fights with that they were focused on, or when they were focused on in the tank fights, they were always very interesting to watch. Be it they were out scouting and found one of the Shermans that the Sherman that was monitoring communications, and then we're like, oh fuck, let's leave, and then using smoke bombs to help get away, and then to holding off the Mauser or the Maus, whatever, preventing the turret from spinning. So I don't know. I just really liked watching them and their tank. It was really cool.
Gotcha.
So yeah. Cool. I guess this really comes to the final question then of, if tankery existed in this world, would we do it? And if we were girls? And for me, the answer is yes.
Curious. What has you interested? What role do you think you'd play in tankery?
What role?
Yeah,
Ooh,
what do you
this is
do?
an interesting question.
I know I asked it.
Okay. Um, so why would I want to do it? It's I don't know. It's we've got tanks are kind of they're fascinating machines to me at least. How everything's put together, you know, the cannon, the turret. It's just that they also look cool, but maybe that's just, being raised in society to glorify, war and combat and shit. But it just seems like a cool way of using these tanks and to teach people certain aspects of war and stuff. I don't know. I'm blowing shit. What role would I take? I would probably go with driver. I would not want to be responsible for directing or for like being the tank commander or for shooting. I really wouldn't want to do that.
I feel you on that.
Yeah, it'd be too much pressure. I mean, there's tons of pressure on the driver too, but I don't know.
But you're also just following orders in a
Yeah,
lot of ways.
I mean, and
We're trying to.
yeah, and it's it's driving's fun, so it'd be interesting to drive a tank. So yeah,
Christina, what do you think? As somebody who could actually do tankery right now if it existed. As somebody who may actually be doing tankery and just not telling us.
have you not heard
just-
of?
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, you're right.
Men just get in tanks and don't understand how they work. They're just baffled by the controls. They just freak out.
I mean, since I'm already obviously doing tankery, of course, my answer is yes. And not that this is my current role, but obviously, radio operator seems more like my jam. Communicate with people.
Gotcha.
Why the fuck not? Can't handle the pressure of shooting. My aim's terrible.
I mean, my answer's pretty simple. Mako was a driver, and she didn't want to do tankery, but got roped into it. Yeah, that's what I'd do.
All right.
What about you?
I would not do tankery. I have too many problems with the lack of rules. It's all over the place. Doesn't seem fair. And I feel like I could get a lot of the same stuff from like the parts that appeal to me are all about, strategy and stuff like that. So I feel like I could get that kind of stuff from a lot of other things, in a lot of other ways that are safer and have better rules. If I had to pick a role, I don't want to be a driver, don't want to be a loader, don't want to be a gunner. Probably I'm not interested in being the main commander. I'd be down for like commander of like the small scout tank. That seems like it'd be my jam.
All right, so we could form a tankery team
Yeah.
We could.
because I could be the loader. That'd be fine.
I could also do loader too, I guess. It
We could
depends on
switch
which
off.
manual you hand me first.
We could switch off every round.
Sounds like a lot of work. Anybody got any food?
I'm
really
all right,
hungry.
guys. Was there salt?
It's a tough question. It's not strictly speaking, I didn't feel like it was a bad show, but there were a lot of spots where I felt like the writing was a little bit lacking and where it was much more one-dimensional than I wanted it to be. Did I enjoy a lot of parts of it? Yeah, absolutely. There were quite a few things actually that I enjoyed a lot. Were there things that I didn't enjoy? Yeah. Were there things like that sunset handshake scene that made me want to slap a high school English teacher? Yeah, 100%. Is there salt? It depends on what part we're talking about, I guess. I would say that, oh, wait. I need the salt rankings.
I just brought it up. It's no salt added, pinch of salt, lightly salted, salty, salinated, and preserved.
Thank you.
Got your back.
You know,
I lost those.
I absolutely think that I would go into pinch of salt. Yeah, there's a pinch of salt because depending on where you talk about in the series, I'm a little bit like unenthused / salty, or I'm having like, yeah, that's a good part. Would I recommend the show? Depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking to just have a fun little show, yeah, it's entertaining. I'd recommend it for that. So, you know, taking it as a whole, pinch of salt sounds good. Spencer, learn how to be more concise with your talking. You're bad at words.
Nah, you're good.
All right. I'll say I think I'm lightly salted. I don't know. I've like it's hard to. I mean, we're using the salty terminology, and there's different kinds of salting. I feel like. I'm going to go with lightly salted just because I feel like this was a pretty solid premise that was often executed fairly poorly. And I found myself frequently bored or confused. But at the same time, I was rarely like mad at the show for choices it made. I just felt like it fell kind of flat in places. And I wish it had done better because I think the premise is fun and solid. So I'll go with lightly salted. I don't think I'd ever recommend this show to anyone unless you just wanted something to kind of watch on the side. There's not, you know, it's not a standout in any way to me.
Okay.
Yep.
Calibactor.
I'm gonna say pinch of salt. Really kind of interesting, unique premise with the whole tankery. A little generic and at moments poorly executed, but still pretty entertaining. It didn't have the stupidity of Infinite Stratos or the lack of coherency of Macross Delta that left me both salinated and preserved, respectively. I'm telling you, I wanted to rip my fingernails off during Macross Delta. I am very preserved about that. So, like, it was coherent, if a bit generic. And it's something that I would recommend if someone wanted something goofy that didn't have, like, the kind of depth that's in shows that, like, I would strongly recommend. But it's like, if you're looking for something lighthearted, goofy, and a little bit different, although not, like, the best thing ever, then it's fun.
Yep. So I mean, I think I'm in the same boat as all of you. Well, similar boat. I mean, I'm not on an aircraft carrier or anything, but anyways, I will say pinch of salt. There's a lot that I like about this show. But as everything is, you know, as we've already discussed, there are a number of problems. So I mean, I gotta say, would I recommend it? Yeah, I would recommend it to somebody after determining what they're interested in, which is, what are you looking for? Are you looking for something to really get into and really be invested in characters and in, you know, the whole conflict and blah, or are you looking for just something to watch and be entertained by? If you're looking for something to watch and be entertained by and you like tanks, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the show wasn't about the characters. Like, they were just, to be frank, they were just a vehicle for the tanks.
They're just a vehicle for the tanks. That's a good one. Dad joke of 2017.
To be fair, this could have ended up being something very different and been like literal tank girls. What's that show that has the girls that are planes that are like half plane?
Are you thinking of Kantai Collection, which is Ship Girls?
There is that. There's
Oh,
that
God.
too.
I forgot about that show.
Oh wait, is it Strike Witches? Are they planes?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's it. There's also I remembered there's also the show about the girls who are literally guns.
Wait.
Yeah.
And there's the War of the Human
various
Tanks
assault
game.
rifles.
Well, I know that there's a visual novel of tank girls.
Yeah.
That one's that looks pretty funny.
All right, so we know what we're watching.
Well,
All
that's
three
a
of
great
those.
segue.
Yeah, what are we watching, Spencer?
Well, I've done a lot of thinking about this one. And this is actually a show that I found while we were doing Blast of Tempest, actually.
Oh, I was about to ask, are we going to do Blast of Tempest Part 2?
No, when I'm on the opposite side of Oliver. So when last episode, you guys might recall, Oliver said I knew that my second round pick had to be something good. Because he offered Infinite Stratos as our first ever episode. Well, the first time around, I picked something really, really good, like A+. So I decided I needed to go to the opposite side and find something that wasn't good at all. Because as you all remember, we loved Blast of Tempest. It was a great show. So I'm about to go a full 360 degrees, and we are watching Handshakers.
Handshakers.
What?
Handshakers.
All right. I don't.
Oh boy.
There are 12 episodes, and we are watching the whole show. Handshakers.
All right.
So, if you guys want to hear about episodes like Sing a Sonic and Shake the Hands, or Finally Fairy Meet Yet, boy, stay tuned for the next episode of There May Be Salt.
Oh boy, this looks like it's gonna be a time.
I have watched the whole thing twice, and I had to literally physically restrain Gillis to get him to watch part of it with me. I hope everyone's excited.
Can hardly
Very
wait.
excited.
Oh boy. All right.
Well, all right. Well, with that, I think I'm going to sign off.
It
You know it.
looks like a time.